Hello, and welcome back. This video is about adding the user interface for win versus loss conditions. And a special thanks to all my supporters. Thank you for helping me help others. So the first thing I've done is drag the detail crystal large FBX file into the tower defense kit folder. So we'll hit import. This should all be good, so we'll just hit import all. It has some smoothing issues, that's expected. The color map just saying that it's named the same thing, so it does some fun stuff. Regardless, this is how we end up. So we're going to drag this into our level. We want this at the end of the path, which we have this spot right here. Over in location here, I'm just going to hold shift, right click, select that, shift, left click, and it puts it in the same position. And then I'm just going to pop it up 20 so it's not sticking in the ground. So with that done, we go into our UI folder. I'm going to create a user widget. Call this WPP summary. And in here, I'm going to drag in a canvas panel followed by an image. We want the image to be full screen, so it's currently white. I'm going to change the color before I make it full screen so I don't flashbang you. And then hold Control and Shift, or Shift and Control if you prefer. Click that, boom. We're then just going to throw in some text. We want to center this. I'm just going to set this initially to You Finished. We're going to open the font, pop it up 4 times to 128. And then we also want it centered. And it's lower than that section because the size is not big enough yet. So we'll pop that up to 800 by 140. And nicely centered. This summary screen won't really have much functionality. It needs to be added later after some other functionality is added to the project. But for now, we want a button. We'll take this button, again, Control Shift, plop it down in the center bottom. We want to push this up 40 in a negative. And we'll make this 200 by 40. Looks good. However, we want to put text on that button. So if we drag text on the button, that will work. All right, so for the text, we're just going to call this is win text. No, we're not. That's the other text. Let's call this is win text. This will be a variable, so we can set the actual text value. This one, we don't need to be a variable, so we just got rid of that name, but whatever. We'll call it play again text. That does not need to be a variable. This one, we just want to put play again. And we want to be able to respond to the button's click, so we go down here and add the event. However, to see the available events, enable the is variable, so buttons need to be variables for them to have events. We'll throw this in here, play again button, make it a variable, add the event. And for now, all we're doing with this is we're going to get our current level name, which is a string, and it gets sent into open level by name, which is a name, so it needs to convert it. We're also going to create a function. We'll just call this onGameEnded. And as before, we're just sending along a Boolean is win. So being that this summary screen, which I just realized I misspelled, being that this screen is going to take up the full screen, it will initially, we want it invisible. So we're going to go back here, set our summary visible or visibility to hidden. I'm actually going to rename this because, it bothers me. All right, and then in our onGame ended, the first thing we're doing is getting our reference to self, and we're making it visible. So set visibility, visible. And then we're getting the variable sent in, get is win, using that to branch. And we want our is win text, so control drag that out, call set text. Just go ahead and copy paste that because we want it twice. The true condition is you won, and the other condition is you lost. Now there's one last bit that may or may not be needed with this text, but when there's text on a button, if it's just set to visible, it may block the pressing of the button. So I'm going to leave that for now, and then we'll come back and change it if needed. However, the way you would do that is you would just set this to not hit testable. Either of these is fine. These are both visible. You just can't click on the text, which we don't want, but we'll see. I'm kind of curious because I did this slightly differently. So with that done, we're going to go into our HUD. And then we want to go down to our user created, and we're going to drag in summary. As you can see, it's way up there. So in here, we also need to make it shift control over here. And now it's in the way of everything else. Its initial state is already hidden because that's what we set. If you want to be able to see the other controls while you're editing, you can just click over here. So we'll do that for now because we don't need to see it. And we have other stuff to add. And that other stuff is we're going to add a progress bar. I want this center top. Shift control. And move this down 40, make it a size of 440. Because I used shift control, it set the alignment X to 0.5, which is what we want, it's centered. So then we want to add text to the progress bar, which progress bar, unlike the button, can't have children. So how do we resolve that? We can right click progress bar, we go to wrap with, and go to overlay. So once you do that, a few things happen. First of all, we lose all the stuff that we had put up here. However, we do want the fill, so that it takes up full space. And the values that we did put in is copied into or moved into the overlay control. That's all good. Then we can drag our text onto the overlay. We also want that to fill. Or rather, we want it centered because if we just have too much text, it'll just actually expand outside of there. We don't like that, but we're not going to have too much text, so it doesn't matter. And in this, we're just going to be showing the health slash the max health. So we need both of these to be variables. So we'll call this heart health. I'm going to copy that. Bar. This needs to be a variable. The text will be heart health text. And that's a variable as well. So the way we set this up is in our player blueprint. We're going to add a new function on heart health changed. This is getting our WBP HUD so that we can get our heart health bar. It's going to take in two floating point parameters. Heart health and max. Forgot I had my clipboard. Heart health. So we want to divide this because the way we update a progress bar, we call set. You can see there's only a few options, and set percent is how we actually set it. So we just do that. Pretty this up a bit. And then we also want to update the text. So again, we'll get our HUD, we'll get the heart health text. We'll set text on that. We can use a format text for this. And as a reminder, we put variables in curly braces. So we'll just put current slash max, hit enter, and they show up here. So in this case, we have our get heart health and get max heart health. To call the summaries on game ended, we're also creating an on game end here. This will of course take in a bool is win. Now I had forgotten to do this, so back in our HUD, we will make our WBP summary a variable. And then we're just calling on game ended. And lastly, in our game mode, conveniently, we're in the on enemy attacked, which is where we want to call our players on heart health changed. So we can do that by calling get player pawn. Don't do this. And then using that to cast and then call the function. So I'm going to just cut this. We're going to go into our event graph. At the end of our begin play, we want to do that. Cast it to our BP player. And we'll just save this as a variable. It's called player. Also want to add another variable for heart health. Just going to duplicate that, call that max heart health. And we want to ensure that the max heart health has a starting value. We don't really want the pain of if we need to update max heart health, then we have to also update heart health. So instead in here, we're just going to have our head health. That'll get set to max heart health. So you only ever need to update heart health or max heart health manually, and that's good to go. Now we want the player to have the on heart health called immediately. So we can call our on heart health. The problem here, however, although I'll drag these in first. So the widgets are created in the player's begin play. And at this point in time, we're not guaranteed that player begin play has been called. So as we've done before, instead of doing this, we can then just call set timer for next tick by event, or function name if you prefer. We'll throw that up here, add custom event. We'll call it one time init. And that's what gets called up here. And I could drag it from down there, but I'm going to do it this way. So then back on our on enemy attacked, we can just copy this. And that gets called every time the heart health changes. Lastly, we have our game ended function. We can remove this print. We're just going to be calling the players on game ended, sending along this value. And since we still don't want things showing up or moving in the background, we still want that set to paused. So when we run this and we just let it go, you can see the hard health there is 25. As a reminder, the small ones will do 5 damage, the big ones will do 8, but of course there's overlapping, so it's a little hard to see exactly, but 5, then 5, but then 5, then 8, and then the last one will be a green one that was hidden. So the intent here in a later video is for the summary to show a bunch of stats, and then instead of just play again, which we'll click this, it'll reload the map, so it resets it. We can set up some turrets this time and see the other condition. But we don't have those stats available yet, and we don't have the system to choose maps yet. So once that's done, we can come back and update the summary. Or forget about that, then update it later in the polish phase. So with all the enemies gone, now it's a U1 condition. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video and would like to see more, you know what to do. If you would like to support this channel, watch these videos 2 weeks early, or just want to download the project files, you can do so through my Patreon linked below.